Good afternoon. My name is Marian Kromkowski, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Leelanau County. The League of Women Voters is a national political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and hope to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League is nonpartisan and as an organization never endorses or supports individual candidates or political parties. People are still coming in. Thank you for coming. League membership is open to both men and women. More information on the League is available at the table as you entered, but our website is LWVLC.org. Dues are only $60 a year, and once you join our local chapter, you're a member of the state and national league. What else? We have now over 150 members, so we are a very active and growing league here in Michigan. Today we host a forum entitled Rehabilitative Alternatives to Jail. So, commentary before we begin. The U.S. is only 5% of the world's population, but we hold 25% of the world's prison population. I believe our presenters will agree that there is a clear overlap between substance abuse, mental health, and poverty, and persons often becoming involved in the criminal justice system. They probably also will agree that supportive and rehabilitative programs are more successful and investing in them more cost-effective than expanding the economic cost of incarceration. Our presenters today will be as follows. Sharice Shively, who is the Community Corrections Manager at the 86th District Court. Associate Judge Michael Long from the Grand Traverse Band. Leelanau Family Court staff John Boonstra and Cassidy Fisher. Deputy Diane Spies, who is the Art Director at the Leelanau County Jail. Jim Panek, who's a retired deputy from Leelanau County and now a volunteer at the jail. And Dale Dietrich, an upcoming artist in our community. Judge Michael Stepka was also invited to speak today, and he did indicate he would, but with some conflicts in the court, he is unable to attend. So Sharice will maybe offer some of his comments. Each speaker will have, or each part of the program will have about 10 minutes on the new innovative efforts offered by our local courts and to address adult and juvenile behaviors that previously would have meant jail time, but now may not. We hopefully will have time for questions and answers afterwards. The snow has lightened up just a tad, so hopefully we'll all be able to leave here and drive home safely. Following our presentation here today, we'll take a very short break, and the League will have its business meeting. Members are strongly encouraged to attend. Newcomers are welcome to attend and observe. Thank you very much. With that, we'll call Sharice up to the podium. If you speak into the microphone.
Okay. Good afternoon. I first would like to send a message from Judge Stepka. He apologizes that he could not be here. We had planned this for quite some time, and there are only 2 judges that handle 3 counties, Antrim, Grand Traverse, and Leelanau. When there is any type of emergency, they have to handle those situations. So there's some things that came up that he has to deal with. So he was going to speak about a few of the alternative courts that we have. So I'll go over those a little bit. I'm mainly here to speak about community corrections because that's what I hopefully am the expert on today. But I am on the alternative courts have teams, and they are team members that meet about these folks, and so I'm on the team of these alternative courts as well as part of community corrections, so I do know a little bit about them as well. But I will start with community corrections. Community corrections is a jail alternative program. Can you all hear me? Am I too loud or anything? Is this okay now? Okay. So we are a jail alternative program. We are a Michigan Department of Corrections funded program. We are not a county program by any specific county. We are funded through the Michigan Department of Corrections, and it is a department of that. Michigan Department of Corrections has contracts with different counties to place community corrections in those areas. So for our department, we oversee the 13th Circuit Court and the 86th District Court. And those districts and circuit, they encompass Antrim, Grand Traverse, and Leelanau. So we cover all 3 of those in this area. We, in community corrections, our goal with the state is, number one, to reduce the prison population, reduce prison sentences, and reduce those going to prison. It is to have a positive impact on recidivism, meaning that we would like to have folks not re-offend and go back to prison. And so what we do with our programs is target that. We try to create alternatives for the judges so that there are alternates, programs in the community so that folks can be placed in the community and not placed in prison. So that is the ultimate goal. And so with that, what we do with community corrections, every person that goes on community corrections is sentenced, whether they be a misdemeanor or a felon, and they do have to serve a portion of their jail sentence before they're eligible to participate in our programs. Our program is not to get people out of jail. A lot of the folks that are sentenced, that's what they think. Oh, I'm just getting on community corrections, I'm going to get out of jail. We are not a get out of jail program. We are a work on your problem program so you stop coming back here program. And try and help them develop those tools in their lives so that they stop reoffending and stop these problems. Marion discussed that a large portion of our population do have substance abuse issues. I've been with community corrections for 11 years, and I would say when I started, about 75 to 80% of the population had a substance abuse problem. That is well over 90% now, in my opinion. It's very rare for us to get a person, regardless of their crime, that does not have a substance abuse or mental health issue. Mental health concerns are becoming a much greater problem. You have does a mental health problem cause addiction? Or, are they self-medicating because they have a mental health problem? So they're kind of in conjunction there, we feel. So most of the folks that we see, we address their addictions. We have the option to place people in to residential treatment facilities, and they're all over the northern Michigan, and they go there and they're working on their substance abuse problems, and it's a residential facility where they live. They're not free to just go through the community and do what they want to do. They live in those facilities, and they are concentrating all day on recovery. Typically, it's about a 6-hour day of meetings, AA meetings, counseling, group meetings. It's very intensive when they're in residential treatment. We also place folks into what are called recovery homes. They're sober living environments in the community. They are not manned 24 hours a day like the residential facilities are, but they do have supervision of staff. And while they're there, it's supposed to be a sober living environment, but people are free to do what they want, and they do still make poor choices. And so I don't want that to be in the community, that they're not ever going to be having problems while they're in these sober living environments, even though that's what they're called. People still make poor choices while they're there. And then we also place folks on house arrest. And so with the house arrest, we put a GPS on somebody and we monitor where they are 24 hours a day. With a person is on community corrections until they would have normally got out of jail. So for example, if somebody receives a 93-day jail sentence, they have to serve 15 days before they're eligible to be released on community corrections. We then supervise them until they would have normally got out of jail. At that point, they then go on regular probation, which is much less intensive supervision. So that's our portion with a person. If they are a felon, they do have to serve more time than they would have to if they are a misdemeanor. The folks that are eligible for our programs, our felons, are eligible for prison. They could have been sent to prison, and the judges have made the decision to not send them to prison and to give them a local jail sentence, but they do still require that they serve some part of their jail sentence because they do have a debt to society to still fulfill. One of the reasons that our program is successful is because, in part, I feel that a person does actually go to jail for a little while. The reason for that is many people do need to go through the withdrawal process from drugs, and they're unable to do that in the community. They're medically supervised while they're in jail while they go through that process. The other thing is, as a constituent and as a member of the community, if you commit a crime, I want you to have to pay something for that crime. But I also want you to get some help and to not keep coming back here and not keep doing this. So our program has a balance we have to maintain. We are trying to help them, but we are not enabling them. We're hopefully not enabling them. Community corrections in general, I did a report, and for the last year we had an 83% success rate. That is 83% of our population completed their term with us and didn't return to jail. that's where we stop calculating. That does not mean that they then didn't reoffend when they were done with us, but they at least complete our program successfully. So that is actually a very, very high success rate because, you know, they get out of jail, they don't have to complete. They can mess up and they can do all kinds of things, but we have 83% of them last year that completed it and did it successfully. With our program, if you, it is a privileged program. It is not a guarantee. It is not a right. The folks in jail, if they are not following the jail rules and they are being problems, they are not given the privilege of community corrections and they can serve their jail sentence. So not everybody is eligible for this program. This is for folks who want to change their lives and want to get help. Now, we may give them 2 or 3 chances on different times because it is going to take people a while to realize their lives are unmanageable and that they need help. So we are dealing with a very difficult population. We are not dealing in community corrections with the easy ones. We get the ones that have failed probation, that have repeatedly come back to jail, and are problems. Those are the folks that we deal with. So when I say we have an 83% success rate, I think that's very, very high, you know, in dealing with the population that we work with. So that's just, I don't want to take up too much time because I still have to discuss some things Judge Stepka was going to discuss, but that's in general what community corrections is. We are truly a jail alternative court. So when you are talking, or placement, so when you're talking here today about the jail alternatives, we literally go and we get somebody out of jail and we place them somewhere that's more rehabilitative for them than jail, because it's not. They're being housed in jail. So that's community corrections. So I'm going to shift over to a couple of the other programs that the courts have. We have a new one, and it is called Community Court. Community Court deals with the homeless individuals in the communities. Right now, I think it is just being managed. When we start programs, we start them in Grand Traverse County. It's easier. We have all the resources then, and then we start to branch them out to the other communities or the other counties. And so I think this is just being handled in Grand Traverse County for now. What this is we will take an individual into the court that owes fines and costs to the court and say they've committed yet another crime. This time, what they're going to do is they will be supervised by a member in the community at an agency, and if they are even successful for a short period of time, their fines and costs are forgiven. These are folks that are repeat arrestees. There is no sense. They're never going to pay. They're never going to, no, I wouldn't say never, but it's very difficult for them when they don't have the ability to have their own home to even pay for court costs. So this is to get them into some supportive assistance and get them a caseworker that's going to help them manage their lives. And if they can successfully complete that for a short period of time, the court will forgive their costs. And that may involve them doing community service work. So it's not just free. They have to complete community service work in their community to work off those fines and costs. So there is a portion of that they do have to work for, and it's not just given to them. 2 other alternative courts are sobriety court and drug court, and they are much the same, so I'm going to talk about them together. They just handle different populations. Sobriety court handles OWI seconds, so drunk driving seconds and drunk driving thirds. A drunk driving third is a felony. A second is a misdemeanor. Drug court deals with drug-related felony convictions. And the goals of both of those courts are obviously the same goals that we have for everything with community corrections, is to place them in these structured environments where they can get more supportive structure and better their lives. The sobriety court program and drug court program for the felons is a 3-year program, so it is not a short program, and it is an extremely intensive program. For the first year, they have a lot of things that they have to do, and if they are successful in the first year, they are allowed to then plead to a misdemeanor and then be convicted as a misdemeanor instead of a felon. And this is huge for some people, because when you are a convicted felon, your employment possibilities drastically decrease, as well as your student loan possibilities and just so many different aspects of your life. And so this helps them. If for a year in a very, very intensive program they can complete that, they're well on their way to changing their behaviors and changing their lives. They then are placed still under a 2-year supervision of probation, and it's still a very, very intensive program when they're going through that. So for the felons, it's a total of 3 years that they are being supervised. In the program, there are what are called teams, so I'm a team member. There are members, the judge, the probation officers, there's members from the community, counselors are in the team, and we meet each week to discuss the members, the participants in the program. If they're doing well, they get rewards. If they're not doing well, we discuss their sanctions and the problems that we have. We make recommendations to the judge as far as what is recommended for their, sanction or a discipline for them. It is ultimately the judge that makes those decisions, but it's a team effort, and I'm a part of that team, and there's a great deal of time and effort that goes into each and every individual that's on those programs. They then also have probation officers, they have therapists, they have all kinds of things that are geared towards changing their lives. And so for all of these alternatives that we have through our court system, we are different than a lot of the areas in the state. I will say that I am very proud of our circuit court and our district court because they are very forward-thinking and progressive in the opportunities that they are providing for folks who are making poor choices. And we understand that these folks are broken individuals. They are not terrible people. There is a population that are criminals, and there's not a lot that we're going to do with those. But for the most part, they are broken individuals that we need to help, and we want to help them better themselves and make better choices for their lives. So all of these programs that we have are kind of a wraparound, and we all work together. So we have all these separate programs, but we all work together to help these folks. So I hope I've given you a little bit of a better understanding of what those are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Long. I serve as one of the 2 tribal court judges for the Grand Traverse Band. Just a quick kind of informational thing, because my perspective is slightly different. My undergrad is in criminal justice. I was a police officer for 5 years and then spent time with the prosecuting attorney's office in Flint, very short, and then moved back here. I'm from here originally. And then I've been in private practice for 20-some years, and I've been working with the tribe off and on for about 17, and then as their judge for probably 4 or 5 years. So if you'd asked me about specialty courts and different treatment when I first started out after undergrad, I would have told you that we're safer just putting people away, let them do their time, and then turn them loose, and then we'll see what happens. However, life experiences happen, right? And we all learn from what we see, what we hear. And what I would offer to you is that putting children in detention and adults in jail, for the most part, never works. It just doesn't. The policy of pain or pleasure in terms of treating people, which is where we all started way back when, the numbers will show you that does not work. So something has to change. Co-occurring mental health and substance abuse right now is a huge elephant in the room, and it's not getting any better. What I would offer to you is opiates right now, as well as heroin and meth, are here to stay. And we're going to be dealing with adults who are addicted, as well as the children they're having who are born addicted. And we still don't have the numbers or the studies to show where that will end up. So we're going to have to change and evolve. Another thing to consider is technology has changed. So in the old days, you wouldn't be able to just get online and figure out that you can drink hand soap to get alcohol. But the kids can do that now. And what you find is some of the schools now have had to change the hand soap dispenser and what they're using because it's got alcohol in it. So from the tribe's perspective, every year we take a look at the programs that are in place, try and better them, and then go after grants that will allow us to bring in different treatment modalities to work within the community. We are in month 7 or 8 of a new grant that we received. It's a family healing to wellness court that looks at juveniles who either offended in a drug or alcohol related offense, or the offense itself was caused by some drug or alcohol. In other words, mom and or dad were drinking, and there was a domestic, and the child damaged something and was brought within the purview of the court. That is going to be, what we found is these types of programs, in order to work, have to be everybody pulling in the same direction. So you're going to be pulling in behavioral health, you're going to be pulling in the probation officers, you're going to be pulling in law enforcement, the judges as a group. And the hope is, rather than putting a Band-Aid on it, you're looking at making really meaningful changes in the juveniles' lives or the families' lives so that we don't see them again. We're not there yet. We're still correcting as we move forward. But there have been some great strides taken in the last couple of years with options. One option that I wanted to mention today that we've used within our programs, and it's been around for a while, is MRT, which is moral recognition therapy. You can go online and take a look at it, but essentially what it is understanding that the tough-to-reach inmate population doesn't respond to pain or pleasure. So I could say to them, you're going to jail for 93 days or a year, and they'd say, okay, well, I'll see when I get out. But I haven't changed anything. Or I can put them on probation and say, don't do this, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So what the therapists have found, and what that program is now relying on, is the understanding that instead of just pain or pleasure, you also have to focus on helping someone understand how they fit into the social norms and community and getting them to follow rules because it is better for the community. Not because I told you to do it or didn't tell you to do it. And it's made some great strides. Most programs nowadays will see a dollar for dollar comparison. So, for example, MRT, if you go online, I believe their number is just over 10 to 1. So every dollar you spend on MRT, you will save $10 ultimately in that specific client. That's where we're headed. All programs that I'm involved in, we're crunching the numbers and collecting the data, because when we go for federal dollars or state dollars, they're going to want to know who you're impacting and then whether or not the program's working. The elephant in the room is sustainability. That's I think for the county, for the state, it is definitely for us. We had a healing to wellness court, is the way we refer to it, much like the sobriety court in the district court, and we lost it in 2010 because there were government sequestrations, across the board cuts, and we couldn't continue to train. These programs are expensive to get up and running because of all the training, but then once you have it up and running, if you lose a client, an employee, you have to retrain. And what the problem we ran into is once the funding stopped or changed, the money wasn't there to continue to train. And these programs, you have to follow a certain schedule and organized fashion to reach your end result. In other words, you couldn't just throw me into Judge Stepka's court and say, you're now part of the team. Now, it would be, I think, easy enough to lean on the other team members, but ultimately each team member has a certain role they play. And if you don't know what role you're playing, it's going to cause problems in terms of success for that specific client. So I'm excited. We've got a new program that's up and running. There's a grant going in very soon that will be an adult healing to wellness court. My hope is that we have both the family and the adult running at the same time. The one nuance you'll find with tribal court programs, which are very similar to what's in the state court, is that they will build in culture. So for example, our healing to wellness court will build in tribal arts as well as basket weaving and beading and things that the elders have passed down to generations as part of the sense of community that these people, the group, the community need to have. So in other words, if you're building that relationship, if they're going to make a poor choice, hopefully they'll second guess it and ask, what role does that choice or what impact does that choice have on my community? In terms of numbers, we don't have the numbers that the county does, but for the population, the percentages are still pretty high. We do have a treatment facility that we utilize in North Dakota, but what I would offer to you is taking someone for an opioid dependency and sending them to a 30-day program and then bringing them back to the community and saying, okay, we've got you through this first 30 days when all the studies will show you opioid dependence is a 9-month to a year process. Unfortunately, we can't do that. So we've got to be innovative, we've got to look at different programs, and we have to continue to evolve as the newer drugs come in and as we identify issues in the community. There are, I believe, 10 tribal courts in the state right now. I believe all of them have some type of treatment court. There's a lot of different words out there that recognize that we're not helping anybody by just putting people in jail. So unfortunately, a lot of our hearings are closed to the public, but I think what you'd see if you came in, aside from the cultural differences which are built in, is very similar to what the state utilizes, and hopefully these will start to make a change. We don't have the data for 10, 20-year changes, but I'm telling you, based on what I've seen, it does make a difference. It's less costly, and ultimately it's going to serve everybody far better than just putting people in jail. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cassidy Fisher, and this is John Boonstra. We're both youth services counselors with the Leelanau County Family Court. We run our prevention and diversion program. We're both licensed professional counselors and have specific training in prevention. John is also a certified prevention specialist. He's been with the court for about 3.5 years, and he is able to work primarily with our adolescent males. And I've been with the court for about a year. I'm working under a grant through the Department of Health and Human Services, and I work primarily with females. John's going to talk briefly about our program model and how we kind of fit into this continuum of care.
When we were asked to speak, it was on rehabilitative factors towards prevention of jail. And if you look at a behavioral health continuum of care, rehabilitation is on one side, and what we do is on the other side of that continuum of care, whereas what we do is prevention. We try to prevent those early interventions with adolescents, and we use specific interventions for them. Our prevention programming utilizes early interventions, and that's based on a strategic framework which is outlined by Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services of America. And those interventions that we use are based on risk and protective factors. When I started 3.5 years ago, I started tracking what risk factors each of the young men that I have has or possesses, either in their family, in their environment, or within themselves. And then also what protective factors I can utilize that will help those young men out.